Whoa, something doesn't feel right. Everything seems shaky. It's definitely not an earthquake, and it's actually getting worse. The clouds seem to move quicker than usual, and the animals are going into a frenzy. The news anchor pops up on the TV in an alarmed tone and says, "Good morning. We're sorry to interrupt your program. Scientists have just discovered that the Earth's rotation has been fluctuating at an unusual rate. A group of specialists believe that the Earth is increasing its rotation with every second, and they don't know why." Even if the Earth increased its speed by 1 mile per hour, the day would only get shorter by a minute and a half or so. We wouldn't really feel it, and you could go on like nothing is happening. But as the Earth spins faster, our bodies, which are adjusted to a 24-hour timing, will have a hard time trying to cope with it. If you live by the equator, that means the rotation of the Earth is going quicker than at the North and South Pole. The area by the equator needs more time in order to complete its full rotation from the starting point. You'll experience more rain than usual. The Earth's rotation keeps the weather consistent and balanced so that nothing abnormal happens. But because the Earth is moving so fast, the weather is acting up. We'll start to see more storms and more cozy days inside, sipping on hot cocoa. Even though it seems weird, everyone can go about their day. But if the Earth picked up some speed and moved at 150 feet per second, the day would be reduced to only 22 hours. It kind of makes you feel jet-lagged 24/7. Every business works with the 24 hours a day schedule, so taking away even 2 hours can have catastrophic effects on the world economy. The whole calendar will have to change and adjust to the new timing. Clock designs will change with the new midnight, replaced with 10 o'clock. And with each week, the hours will shorten, so there will be no proper way of telling time except by sunsets and sunrises. The weather will continue to get worse and worse, feeling like the rain will never stop. The animals that rely on weather patterns won't know how to function, and mass migrations will occur from almost all species of animals. Flocks of birds will be flying everywhere and reach places they normally won't go to, affecting the whole food chain and ecology. Woods, jungles, and other places where animals roam are kept in proper balance when unaffected by humans. If it constantly rains in certain areas, then floods will force animals to move to other territories and compete with the predators in the area. If the Earth picked up speed every day, then standing on a scale in the Arctic would tell you weigh 180 pounds. But around the equator, you might weigh about 179 pounds. That's because of the extra force opposing gravity in that area. With the Earth spinning faster, all airlines around the world stop, since the radar systems have gone haywire and the weather is too dangerous to fly. Everyone has to get around by car. Satellites are positioned in such a way that it's crucial they remain where they are in order to bounce signals to us. Because of what's happening, Wi-Fi and TV signals can't go through. Communications around the world will end up short and slow, and eventually we'll have a total communication blackout. Ships will cease to operate and global trading will collapse, adding extra damage to the already failing world economy. Winds will get stronger and faster than usual, which means temperatures will change. Storms like hurricanes will be stronger than ever and have more energy for destruction. And still, at 100 miles per hour, the equator will now be swallowed up in the water. The Amazon basin and small islands will now completely submerge in water by around 50 feet. Most of the plant life will be in danger, especially by the equator. With woods threatened by floods, more animal environments will be in jeopardy. The trees and plants won't survive so much flooding. If the Earth rotated so fast that the hours would now be reduced to 15, then we'd probably feel like we're always on a jet plane going through turbulence. It would be impossible to sleep if the Earth kept picking up speed every second of the day. So days would be around 7 hours long as well as nights. The whole world would be flooded, except for the highest points and the tallest mountains. If that happens, humans will most likely end up there clinging to the last remaining clear patches of land. Most of the animal life will be extinct as well. And as the Earth is spinning faster and faster, the crust will lose its durability, allowing more frequent and stronger earthquakes to happen. Volcanoes will erupt all over, even if they're submerged in water. It'll go on like this for quite a while. Many major natural disasters like earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes, and even melting ice sheets have sped up the speed of the Earth by milliseconds. So, with the Earth's continuing speed increasing, these natural disasters will make the planet go even faster. Even if it's just for milliseconds, it's enough to have major consequences. The Earth is now spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, and as you're sitting with the rest of the survivors, you feel yourself levitating slightly. You'll see tiny pebbles and rocks floating inches from the ground. The clouds above you are passing like shooting stars. The air is thick with moisture, since water is rising to the top, forming thick clouds ready to pour. But since gravity is weaker, some of the rain is suspended in the air. Many small objects will be floating around as if you were in space. The days and nights won't be longer than a few hours. At this point, the whole world will be flooded, and the crust will be 80% gone. If it goes on any longer, there won't be any living things around, probably except for microscopic creatures that can withstand extreme and harsh conditions. The Earth would need to spin at approximately 17,600 miles per hour to cancel out the gravity for things to start floating around. At this point, all the water in the ocean will rise and look like reverse rain. The large mountain rocks will separate from the bedrock and levitate above the ground, looking like little planets in space. The Earth is now spinning 17 times faster than usual, which makes one full rotation around its axis only 84 minutes instead of 24 hours. If you manage to stay that long, then you'll literally see the days and nights go by in an instant. You'll also be floating aimlessly in the sky, bumping into rocks and other surfaces. You won't recognize anything anymore. The Earth's crust is ripping apart, exposing the magma underneath. So landing on the ground isn't an option. You'll see outer space as you go higher and higher. You won't know how fast you're going, but all you know is that you're probably the only human left in this spinning world. The Earth will eventually spin so fast that the rest of the layers will start to peel off, exposing the Earth's interior. It'll start to squeeze itself from the core until it becomes similar to a pancake. Nothing can survive at this point. So much heat will be produced from the core that the planet will heat up like a microwave. All the water will disappear, and it'll look like a red dot in the solar system. And once it starts to approach the speed of light, time will freeze. The rocks and floating elements won't move and will eventually be distorted. And with enough effort, the Earth will eventually turn into a black hole. Of course, nothing like this will ever happen. According to scientists, Earth will most likely slow down in rotation. Ever since the Moon came into the picture, the Earth has been slowing down by around 4 miles per hour every 10 million years or so. That's because of the Moon's gravitational pull on our little blue planet. It'll most likely go on that way. So hey, what's your hurry?
Imagine a planet where every breath you take electrifies your body like a shot of espresso. The sky above you is an intense shade of blue, while colossal trees stretch towards the heavens, their vibrant green leaves growing at an astonishing rate. Daily exercise becomes a thrill like no other. With the abundance of oxygen, you become a supercharged version of yourself. Running feels effortless as you dart across the landscape, lifting weights that would normally seem impossible. It's as if the world itself is infused with a surge of energy. Everything is moving faster. The wildlife surrounding you is equally affected by this oxygen overload. Animals roam the land in majestic proportions. Their massive frames are propelled by speed and agility. Picture yourself in a pulse-pounding chase with an oxygen-charged cheetah, racing against a predator that could put a Ferrari to shame. Now you may wonder how such a wild scenario could ever be possible. Well, let's see. Oxygen is the powerful fuel that keeps life going. It makes up about 21% of the air we breathe, and every breath we take delivers these tiny molecules to our cells, giving them the energy they need to thrive. Without oxygen, our cells would struggle, and our bodies would fall apart. But that's not all. Oxygen is a superstar that works for all kinds of living things, from tiny bacteria to giant elephants. It's even important underwater, where it enriches the oceans. Amazing creatures like plankton and algae produce lots of oxygen, creating a thriving underwater world. But to fully understand the impact of high oxygen levels on the planet, prepare for a journey back in time. Recently, scientists have made an astonishing discovery. They tested rocks from two different places that were really far apart. And can you believe it? These rocks held tiny pockets of gas that showed how oxygen levels shot up by almost a third in a very short time. It was like a breath of fresh air. So they studied these rocks and found that oxygen levels back then were much higher. Imagine lush landscapes, towering forests, and gigantic swamps that stretched as far as you could see. During the Carboniferous period, oxygen ruled the atmosphere at an impressive 20%, just like today. But over the next 50 million years, its levels shot up to a crazy 35%. Can you imagine what that did? As oxygen surged, something incredible happened. Huge forests grew all over the land, creating a breathtaking green world. And massive swamps took over low-lying areas, making the landscape look surreal and otherworldly. At the same time, carbon dioxide levels dropped. Normally, when things break down, microbes release carbon dioxide into the air. This gas acts like a warm blanket, trapping the sun's heat and raising temperatures. But in the mysterious swamps where these giant plants were buried, the microbes couldn't do their job. The result? The planet got really cold. Who would have thought that a breath of fresh air could have such power? The scientists are still trying to figure out why this happened. But one thing is certain, it wasn't just happening in one place. It was a worldwide phenomenon. It was like the planet was playing a funny game with the climate. But let's go even earlier. We see the first North American dinosaurs making their grand entrance. High oxygen levels are what gave a big boost to the rise of mighty dinosaurs in North America and beyond. Picture tropics filled with the magnificent giant creatures. Obviously, dinosaurs didn't just appear out of nowhere. They took advantage of a changing environment that was perfect for their evolution. Oxygen levels played a huge part in this dinosaur party. As oxygen levels rose, so did the size of these incredible creatures. They started small with predators like Chindosaurus, and soon after, huge dinosaurs like sauropods took over the land. Then, 65 million years ago, dinosaurs disappeared and mammals took over. And here's the interesting part. Mammals never grew as big as dinosaurs. So what's the explanation for this? Mammals, and humans are mammals too, by the way, are special because we can regulate our body temperature. But that comes at a cost. We need a lot of energy to stay warm compared to reptiles and dinosaurs. Dinosaurs didn't bother with temperature control, so they could focus on growing big. The biggest dinosaurs were 10 times larger than the largest mammals. It's like a game of anything you can do, I can do 10 times bigger. Dinosaurs might have had similar limitations with their sizes, but those were much less strict. Before the dinosaurs' extinction, mammals were very small. Many mammal species disappeared along with the dinosaurs. But survivors took advantage of the open ecosystem and rapidly diversified into various body sizes. However, after 42 million years of growth, mammals reached a size plateau. This happened on all continents, most likely because of the temperature and land area. Colder environments allowed mammals to grow larger. Balancing body size and heat became challenging. Land area also played a role in sustaining big populations. But making animals bigger isn't the only thing high oxygen can do. This humble gas is a true jack of all trades. It also acts as our loyal bodyguard, protecting us from harmful UV rays and other dangers from space. Without oxygen, we would be defenseless against space threats. Oxygen also has a fascinating role in shaping the weather. It teams up with its other atmospheric buddies to make the sky go wild with tornadoes, hurricanes, and thunderstorms. They mix and mingle in the air, creating just the right conditions for these exciting weather adventures to happen. And these adventures can be dangerous, but they serve an important purpose. They help distribute nutrients and organic matter, carrying soil, leaves, and debris to new places. So what if we decided to mess with nature and crank up the oxygen levels to crazy heights, 30%, 40%, or even 50%? Well, Too much of a good thing can become dangerous. Oxygen toxicity is when too much of this gas causes big problems. It's like eating loads of candy. It's fun at first, but soon enough you'll regret it. Surprisingly, an overdose of oxygen can leave you struggling for breath, like a tired dancer in desperate need of a break. At first you might feel a burst of energy, but it doesn't last. Dizziness sets in, as if you've been spinning on the dance floor for hours without stopping. In extreme cases, too much oxygen can even harm your body, making you feel like you've crashed into a huge truck. So while oxygen is always with us, giving us life, it's important to appreciate its delicate balance. Don't put on your special breathing gear. Also, we wouldn't be the only creatures to suffer from this oxygen extravaganza. Mammals, for example, will struggle to adapt to these extreme levels. The balance of power among species will change drastically, and winners and losers will fight for survival in a world that's spinning out of control. And we'll need stronger shelters to deal with these gigantic animals. We'll have to stay nimble and avoid danger. Amidst all the chaos, there will be astonishing adaptations. Birds will fly higher than ever before, reaching heights that would amaze even the clouds. Also, get ready for more natural disasters and delicate ecosystems hanging in the balance. Fires will start quickly and rage fiercely, making wildfires a constant threat. Even a small spark from a campfire could cause disaster. We'll need to rethink our cooking and heating methods to stay safe in this oxygen-filled world. But let's not forget the other side of the oxygen story. If we had a planet with low oxygen, only around 15%, we would face a completely different struggle. Every breath would be difficult, leaving us tired and struggling for air. Physical activity would become extremely hard, and our memory and focus would suffer. So let's be grateful for the oxygen levels we have now. They're the perfect balance for us to thrive. In this exhilarating journey through an oxygen-rich world, we've experienced breathtaking wonders and discovered the delicate balance of our planet. Let's cherish the magic in every breath, respect the interplay of oxygen and life, and embrace the thrill of this remarkable ride called life.
Hey, if I said, "What time is it?" you'd probably look at your phone, laptop screen, or wristwatch to find out. But how do these devices know the time? In your devices, the time is set automatically by the program. But how does this program know the exact time? People set up wristwatches before the sale. But then, how do these people know the time? Does anybody really know what time it is? Hey, there's a song there. Anyway, how do we determine this time? And what happens if all the clocks in the world stop? Wait a minute, or longer. So, welcome to the National Physical Laboratory in southwest London. Here you can find some of the world's most famous atomic clocks called hydrogen masers. There are about 400 such devices around the world, and they help the whole planet navigate through time. All modern technologies, satellites, operating systems, GPS, flight and train schedules, and the TV program on your screen are guided by the atomic clock. And here's how they work. Imagine a pendulum. It swings from one side to the other. One swing from left to right, or vice versa, is a period of time equal to 1 second. The pendulum is not very accurate since it's not constant. Its movement may slow down or accelerate. In atomic clocks, atoms do the function of a pendulum. When they're exposed to microwave radiation, they begin to fluctuate. About 9 billion fluctuations are equal to 1 second. Don't believe me? Hey, count them yourself. The vibrations of atoms are precise and unchangeable. These clocks are not lagging behind and not accelerating. The error in such a clock can be 1 second once every 10 million years. Now, I can't wait around that long, so I'll take my word for it. Atomic clocks guide all modern technologies and communication satellites. And now, let's imagine that, for some reason, they stop working. Atoms no longer react to microwaves. After them, quartz watches and all electronic ones stop. Your phone no longer shows the time, and the arrival times of flights disappears on the information board at the airport. At this moment, All dispatchers contact the pilots and ask them to land urgently at the nearest airports. Further flights become impossible. There are too many planes in the sky. If several start taking off and landing at once at the same airport, it can lead to a disaster. Dispatchers wouldn't create the correct schedule without clocks. The same goes for all trains. Train stations can no longer coordinate trips and make switches on railway tracks. This system is too complex and can only work with a precise time. The world is beginning to plunge into complete chaos. The banking system is collapsing. Brokers don't transfer money to clients' accounts on time. People can't get their salaries on schedule. Imagine you promise to send a presentation to a client tomorrow at 2 p.m. and expect to get paid for it. The next day, you don't know what time it is, and send the presentation to the client 2 hours later. They don't get the file on time, and the deal falls apart. At large plants and factories, the schedule of the day gets down. People don't give out the necessary volume of production. Imagine some factory produces 2 tons of processed steel in exactly 8 hours. But the rhythm of work is disrupted, and this reduces the volume. Next, the steel should go to the ship. However, the ship schedules are no longer working either. And this applies to all materials in general: wood, electrical carriers, oil, and metals. Logistic chains collapse because of the stopping of the clock. There's an economic crisis and panic in the world. The exchange closes and opens every day at different times. Shareholders and investors are losing a lot of money. Some say that the clock, not the steam engine, was the most important mechanism for the Industrial Revolution. Steam engines powered cars and ships, but they couldn't synchronize the work of many people. Under such conditions, you stop rushing anywhere, but so do all the other people. You can come to the supermarket, and it will be closed because its owner overslept. But then, when its doors open, you'll find that there are almost no goods there. Ships, trains, and trucks couldn't deliver fruits, breads, and vegetables because they couldn't agree on the time. Many will leave big cities, as it'll be challenging to live there without clocks. The age of high technology has ended. TV channels stopped working because some employees were late and didn't start the broadcast. The channel host came before the operator, but the sound engineer is still sleeping because the alarm clock doesn't know what time it is. To stop the chaos, 2 things need to be done. The first is to accept that the former high-tech life will no longer exist. The second thing is to take an example from our ancestors. People live for thousands of years without knowing the exact time. It has been necessary only since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Before that, people were guided by the sun, the rooster singing, and the internal biological clock. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans used to go to bed at night and wake up in the morning. But with the invention of the light bulb, this order was violated. The industrial era forced humanity to focus not on the internal clock, but on the opening time of factories and plants. Then TV, the internet, and video games were invented, and the sleep mode established by evolution changed. But in a world without counting time, people will forget about alarm clocks again and start improving their sleep. There will be a sundial in every house. The shadow will guide humanity. Hourglasses of various shapes and sizes will be popular again in the world. Sooner or later, we will have returned to some landmark in time as it was in the past. For example, in the 19th century, people used hundreds of different time standards. Railway schedules and buses determined each of them. When the number of routes increased, people started sticking to the same time that was set in Greenwich, UK. There was a big mechanical clock that guided the whole country, Greenwich Mean Time, or GMT. Merchants, factory directors, and bankers adjusted their watches according to GMT. When all UK trains were timed, the GMT signal was sent across the Atlantic via an underwater cable straight to Harvard in Massachusetts. Then, at a special conference in Washington, D.C., more than 25 countries recognize Greenwich as the international time standard. Everything was fine. The technology worked synchronously worldwide, but a problem started. After 10 years, scientists realized that the world needed new clocks. It turned out that the Greenwich clock was inaccurate because it was based on the time our planet spent to make one spin around its axis. In the 20th century, people learned that Earth changed its rotation speed over the years. Oh yeah? It accelerates or slows down because of the gravitational influence of the Moon, the Sun, and other planets, and because of geological fluctuations inside the Earth's core. Scientists calculated that in 1900, the Earth rotated 4 milliseconds slower than at the end of the 21st century. Yes, there are people who watch this kind of stuff. Therefore, people began to develop other, more accurate clocks, atomic ones that we still use. But the strangest thing is that even these clocks don't work in the way people need. Their main problem is excessive accuracy. Earth doesn't constantly rotate the same way, so workers sometimes add additional seconds to the atomic clock or subtract them. And here's why. Ordinary clocks are based on the rotation of our planet. When the time on such a clock shows morning, it's also morning outside. When the clock shows the late hour, it's dark outside. You with me? Our planet doesn't rotate at a constant speed, and the atomic clock is perfectly stable. If the world always worked based on these clocks, then time would sooner or later deviate from the actual day and night. At some point, the sun would begin to rise at 6 p.m., and sunset would start by 7 a.m. To prevent this, timekeepers changed the time on atomic clocks slightly. All of this is necessary to preserve the usual things for people so that the morning hour on the clock and the street coincide. Well, it's time for me to make like an atom and split. Here's a random thought. Try to imagine the animals that could become the new top species should humans go extinct, that is. Tricky, right? I mean, we are pretty cool with our high intelligence, fashion sense, ability to cook, and smartphones, even if we forget the password sometimes. But if we suddenly disappeared, what animals might evolve to develop our skills and build complex societies like we have? Or would they come up with something better? Scientists have some ideas, thanks to modern gene sequencing technology and our understanding of evolution. We know that the climate on the planet will continue to change, so many species will need to adapt to survive. Convergence, which is when two unrelated organisms end up developing similar traits to succeed in a particular environment or fill a niche, will also play a big role. For example, fish are perfected for life in water with their torpedo-like bodies and fins. But dolphins have evolved a very similar body, even though they're warm-blooded, air-breathing mammals with a completely different evolutionary background. So, maybe some animals could develop hands similar to ours to fill the same role as humans, like building cities and modifying the environment. Primates like chimpanzees and bonobos are already close to that with their opposable thumbs, which they use to make tools in the wild. It's also possible that birds, the only surviving dinosaurs, could become the new smartest animals if humans suddenly disappear. Birds are incredibly brainy and can flock together in large groups. Some, such as sociable weavers, even build communal nesting sites, though they may not look like human metropolises. And let's not forget octopuses, which are probably the smartest non-human animals on Earth. They can learn to distinguish between real and virtual objects and engineer their environment. However, adapting to life on land might be tricky for them. You see, there's a lot we don't know about animal intelligence, and let's be honest, we humans have been quite arrogant about it throughout history. In the past, people used to think that animal intelligence could be neatly organized into a hierarchy, with humans at the top and insects at the bottom. But in the 1960s, a new generation of researchers challenged this idea and suggested that intelligence should be measured in relative rather than absolute terms. As technology has improved, we've been able to see animals for longer without disturbing them, and we've discovered they are far more intelligent than we once thought. For example, researchers in Melbourne are using remote-controlled drones to study the breeding patterns of southern right whales, and artificial intelligence is helping us track and predict the movements of all sorts of creatures. It's funny how we tend to recognize intelligence in animals when their behavior is similar to our own. Dolphins, for example, use names and even have accents. In fact, researchers have found that dolphins in southern Brazil have developed a distinct accent after interacting with local fishers for over 100 years. But it's not just mammals that are intelligent. Birds and insects are pretty smart too. Parrots, for example, have complex social groups and can differentiate between members of their species based on their relationships with each other. And even though their brains are tiny, like mine, insects are capable of some pretty impressive cognitive feats, like tool use and learning by observation. We used to think that intelligence was unique to humans and maybe a few other primates, but now we know that's not the case. In fact, research has shown that intelligence is distributed in different ways across the animal kingdom. Some animals excel in one area, but may not be as good in another. It's all about the environmental pressures that each species faces and how they adapt to them. We all know about the usual suspects when it comes to high intelligence in the animal kingdom: chimps, dogs, dolphins, blah blah blah. But there are some unexpected additions to the list that might surprise you. And you might even have one of them napping in your lap right now. I'm talking about our feline friends, house cats. They're renowned masters of getting treats and avoiding baths. But did you know they're also pretty smart? Cats have an amazing ability to learn from observation and repetition, which is why we've coined the term copycats. And some cats, like the one in this next story named Nora, take it to the next level. Nora's owner spends her days teaching kids to play piano, and this cat was getting a little jealous of all the attention they were receiving. So what did she do? She watched them closely, picked up on their movements, and started tapping away at the keys herself. And you know what? It worked. Nora's owner and the kids were amazed, and Nora became a little bit of a piano sensation. She even sits at the piano like a proper piano student. Just because she doesn't have opposable thumbs doesn't mean she can't be a musical prodigy, but wider paws would help to hit those octaves. The next story is about rats. Now don't jump on the couch in fear just yet. And before you go calling them pests, did you know that some rats are actually helping save lives? Researchers in Africa have been training these furry little detectives to sniff out lung disease in saliva samples, and they're really good at it too. These rats have a nose for the job and can detect different scents that are needed to show whether a sample contains a certain bacterium or not. Now, you might be wondering why rats were chosen for this important job. It's because they're super smart and quick learners. These rats go through a series of training exercises to learn how to sniff out different samples. They then alert their trainers to which samples hold bacteria. And get this, they can do it in just 7 minutes. A task that would take a human scientist a full day of testing. These rats can do in a fraction of the time. Dr. Rat. Ooh. Now, ever heard of Nellie the pig? She's surely not your average swine. This clever piggy has proved that animal intelligence goes way beyond just performing tricks. Nellie was presented with a series of challenges, including putting differently shaped items through a hoop. Now, while she was being taught to put round objects through a round hoop, Nellie decided to take it to the next level. When presented with objects that weren't round, she compared their shape with the hoop before deciding they wouldn't fit. This pig has some serious problem-solving skills. It's fascinating to see how pig brains process spatial awareness and solve different tasks. Who knew these curly-tailed creatures were such smarty-pants? Now, elephants are probably some of the most amazing animals on Earth, not just because of their looks. They are not only cute, but they're also super smart and empathetic. These gentle giants are known for their incredible cooperation and coordination skills, which they use to protect their families and scare away their enemies. In the wild, elephants travel in clans and communicate with each other using low-frequency rumbles. They work together to keep their young ones safe from predators, and they're not afraid to show their dominance by kidnapping calves from competing clans. Researchers have found out that elephants are quick learners and can work together to achieve a common goal. They even show empathy toward each other, which is a pretty rare feature in the animal kingdom. For instance, elephants have a special interest in the remains of their own kind. They'll linger near elephant bones and investigate sticks of ivory much longer than they would pieces of wood. Also, when an elephant is feeling upset, other elephants will come to comfort it by stroking its head with their trunks or even putting their trunk in its mouth. Now, how sweet is that? In 2010, one elephant in particular really impressed scientists with his skills. He was seen eyeing some tasty fruit just out of his trunk's reach. After pondering for a few days, he had his aha moment. He discovered a large plastic block and used it as a stepping stool to reach the fruit. He continued to use his newfound tool skills to reach even higher places, stacking blocks to get his favorite treat. If you think about it, we love concepts like the Sorcerer's Stone, the Fountain of Youth, and, vampires for one common reason. We all want to know how it would be to have everlasting life. Some researchers argue that there's no limit to how long we can live. The no-limit camp argues that as long as we keep making scientific advancements and taking care of ourselves, we could potentially live forever, or until you spend down your savings. Meanwhile, the finite lifespan fellas say that our bodies have a built-in expiration date, and there's only so much we can do to push it back. A study suggests that the maximum human lifespan may be around 150 years. The researchers analyzed data about the world's oldest individuals over the past few decades and concluded that there is an expiration date for our lives. Overall, the study provides new insights into the limits of the human lifespan and may help guide future research into the biology of aging and the development of new treatments for age-related diseases. So, let's hypothesize that we can actually push the inevitable end off as long as possible. What if we live for 300 years? In this way, we would still be stuck with a finite lifespan, but it wouldn't be too short. Living forever may not be as appealing because we don't want to reach a point where we get so bored and wish to have a finite life. Living for 300 years would significantly impact every aspect of life. I'll start with the concept of aging and how we perceive it. I know being young and old is subjective, but we are thought of as middle-aged at around 50 years old in our current lifespan. If our lifespan triples, at 50 years old, we might be considered a teenager. Since we have more than 2 centuries to live, it's like every minute we had suddenly became 3 minutes long. When we hit the age of 30, we feel like it's a milestone and that 1/3 of our life is over. But with a longer lifespan, we wouldn't experience this feeling until we reach the age of 100. Here, the critical aspect is whether we are going to keep the same biological and emotional capacity or not. Normally, our adolescent brain continues to develop and doesn't reach full maturity until approximately 25 to 30 years of age. In my scenario, this notion will remain the same. Yet we will probably go to school for a more extended period and learn a whole bunch of new things. Time to speak new languages. How about organ replacement and AI lectures? The education system and curriculum will indeed be changed. We would have more time to read and learn. You get your diploma or you don't pursue higher education and spare that time to master a skill, like being a carpenter. Now you need to earn money. I'm sure that concept won't change. Let's find you a job. You probably have different options to choose from, and retirement might not be necessary until much later in life. In this way, you might have extra time to explore different careers and interests, pursue your goals, take risks, and develop your career. Let's talk about relationships. We now have situationships, open relationships, and so on. I can't imagine the new dynamics we would have in a longer life. The age of marriage and the decision to start a family will all transform. Family structures and roles would change to accommodate these longer lifespans. You'd be grandparents, maybe at the age of 230. Yet, it could turn into a magical experience. We could have even deeper bonds. Imagine you've got centuries to hang out with your best friend. We would have more time to get to know each other and explore our common interests. It's not just us who got to experience the trial version of eternity. The world's resources would be affected too. We would have much longer lives to reproduce. We either overpopulate the globe or keep our existing family member numbers and become underpopulated. If we overpopulate, we'll have to fight for resources. This can quickly turn into a dystopian book. You know what? I really like this idea. I could try writing a book in my 3 centuries-long alternative life. Anyway, it's not just the resources. Ecosystems, animals, and plants would all be affected by us. Hopefully, we'll find new ways to prevent or recover from these problems. How do we solve these issues, you might ask? By advances in science and technology. We would have more time to devote to research and development. We will explore the unknown territories of our planet and universe via science and technology. This could lead to breakthroughs in medicine, energy, transportation, and other fields. I mean, think of astrophysics. We could even find ways to travel to other planets. Since our lifespan is extended, astronauts may complete presumably impossible expeditions. In our hypothetical situation, we'd age at a slower pace. Since we don't wake up one day and start living till 300, medical improvements should be responsible for providing a longer life for us. New treatments and interventions would be there to help people live healthier. Healthcare policies and practices will change too. Good luck to health insurance companies and life insurance. Now, let's talk wellness. People would likely place a greater emphasis on maintaining their mental well-being too. Surely, we would have great memories and enjoy life, but there'll be hard times too. New wellness methods might be seen. As a social science field, psychology might also find new ways to shed light on the human psyche. Plus, we would have more time to see the world and explore new horizons. This would help us enjoy life more. So, bon voyage! Next up, we have the economy. It's one of the most important areas that'll be affected by our longer lifespan. It could potentially result in a larger workforce and more accumulated wealth over time. Or it could lead to a higher demand for resources like food and housing. Then, the states have to be involved to keep the balance and help people meet their needs. Finance, the economy, and everyday life have to find new ways to coexist. If we had a chance to see 2323, maybe we wouldn't use paper money and coins, but move on to a completely digital system. But hey, we already have that right now. Think of PayPal, debit cards, and the like. It's all digital, but I digress. Art and culture. Think of your favorite writer or director. What if they had decades more to produce amazing art pieces? What about physiology and sociology? Try to picture the new ideas and schools that will come. Such a drastic change in the lifespan would also result in a fundamental shift in the intellectual sense. It alters the way we think and spend our time. It changes resources and our entire interpretation of life. This change can lead to a shift in the way we consume products, such as clothes. Have you heard of the term quiet luxury? It refers to high quality and subtly stylish items that are expensive. It's associated with the popular HBO series Succession. Quiet luxury brands are only recognizable to those who are in the know, and they're appreciated for their refined aesthetics that go beyond their price tags. The trend of conspicuous logos and branding is starting to decrease for the consumers of these products. Maybe in the future, there'll be times when people have found ways to truly embrace a fashion style that merges sustainability, accessibility, and the great look all together. An average American will meet 10,000 people in their lifetime. That's a lot of people, y'all. Now, let's do some math. Out of those 10,000 people we meet, how many will we make an impact on? If we're lucky, maybe 25. That doesn't sound too impressive, does it? But even the smallest act of kindness can create a ripple effect that changes the course of someone's life. And when you add up all those little acts of kindness, they can make a world of difference. If we live for an additional 200 years, this number will surely increase. Personally, I'm a member of the team YOLO. You only live once. Why not make the most of it? Me? Well, I really don't want to live for hundreds of years if I can't bring my dog with me.